Hi everyone, it's Beth. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this week's video is going to be an educational video because I feel like I haven't really done many of those recently, so I thought today would be a really good day to do one of those again. So this week's video we're going to be focusing on specifically the similarities and differences of the dwarf hamster and the Syrian hamster. So to start off, let's go through the 5 domesticated species of hamster. So the 5 domesticated species of hamster are the Syrian hamster, the Chinese hamster, the Roborovsky dwarf hamster, the winter white dwarf hamster, and the Russian camel's dwarf hamster. I know that the 4 dwarf hamsters have dwarf hamster in their name, but they are not actually dwarf hamsters. Allow me to explain a bit more. So if you guys didn't know, the Chinese hamster is actually scientifically the only real dwarf hamster out of the 5 domesticated species. This is due to the fact that it shares a lot of similar traits with the Syrian hamster, but also a lot of the traits with the dwarf hamster. Now, the reason why we classify the other species as dwarf hamsters is because they are obviously smaller than the Syrian hamster, which is why we tend to classify them as dwarf hamsters in the hamster community. But the only 2 species of hamsters that are able to interbreed are dwarf hamsters. So the 2 species that are able to interbreed with each other are the winter white and the Russian camel's dwarf hamster. This is due to the fact that they share the same number of chromosomes, so they are able to interbreed. The only way you would ever really get a purebred dwarf hamster is if you were going to an ethical breeder to get a hamster and they would breed it, and they would be able to tell you this is a purebred winter white or this is a purebred Roborovsky. You know, like, it's not possible to have a purebred dwarf hamster unless it comes from an ethical breeder. So if you get a dwarf hamster from the pet shop, it might be listed as a dwarf hamster, but chances are it's just a hybrid. And because these 2 species of hamster are able to interbreed, when they do that, they are most likely going to be a hybrid. That is how hybrids are made, when these 2 species interbreed. Now, because they're not meant to interbreed, they just can because they share the same number of chromosomes, they actually are prone to more health issues than, say, a Syrian hamster or a Chinese hamster, because you're taking 2 completely different species and breeding them. Like, just because 2 animals are able to breed doesn't mean they should. So now we're going to be getting into the differences between a dwarf hamster and a Syrian hamster, starting from where they come from. The dwarf hamster mainly comes from Asia, specifically China, Korea, Mongolia, Russia, and Kazakhstan. The Syrian hamster, however, is mainly found in Turkey and Syria. So now let's get into the different habitats that these 2 hamsters come from. Starting with the dwarf hamster. This hamster mainly can be found in semi-desert or desert climate, specifically the Roborovsky dwarf hamster, which can mainly be found in these desert areas. This is why you'll sometimes see hamster owners have quite a large portion of their enclosures be sand, whereas a Syrian hamster would only have a little part of their enclosure to be sand, because they do prefer to forage and seek for their own food due to their habitats being more agricultural areas such as wheat farms and fields. Now getting into some of their physical differences and similarities, starting with their feet. Dwarf hamsters, including the Russian camel's dwarf, the winter white, and also the hybrid dwarf, all have fur on their feet. This makes it harder for them to climb, but it also suits their environment. They come from the desert, so the hair on the bottom of their paw protects their paw pads from getting overheated. Whereas the Syrian and the Chinese hamster have rough paws and do not have any hair on it, this makes it easier for them to climb, which is why if you have a dwarf hamster, it is probably better that you keep your enclosure and all the accessories closer to the ground, just in case they were to fall off. It won't hurt them too much. If they did try to climb, it wouldn't be so bad. This is also why some Syrian hamster owners prefer to have cork logs and grapevine woods in their enclosures so their hamster can climb, similar to the Chinese hamster, where the enclosures will also be similar to the Syrian. All species of hamster have a scent gland. The dwarf hamsters, so the hybrid, the winter white, and the Russian Campbell, also the rubber rescue dwarf, all have their scent glands on their belly. You can kind of think of it as a belly button, where it would be if they had one. Sometimes it can be covered with a yellow kind of rough skin patch. This is nothing to be concerned about, that's just sometimes what it looks like. Syrian hamster scent glands, they have 2 of, located on either side of their hips. If you see your hamster rubbing against their playpen or cage, it's nothing to be concerned about, it's not a stress behavior, they are simply marking their territory with their scent gland. There is currently no research that I have found that explains why Chinese hamsters have 3 scent glands, but I'm sure there's some out there. If you guys find some, feel free to message me, I'd be very interested to learn. And if I find anything, I will be sure to post it on my Instagram as well as make a YouTube short about it, because honestly I think it's really interesting how they have 3, considering they're just so different to the other species. And there's not much research on Chinese hamsters in general, like most people don't even know where they originate from. I tried looking into that, I can't find anything, so if you guys find anything, let me know. I know a lot of people may assume that because dwarf hamsters are smaller, they require smaller accessories, when in reality this isn't quite true. Because dwarf hamsters have really furry paws, bigger wheels might be harder for them to push. If the surface of the wheel is smooth, it may be a bit difficult for your hamster to run on it. They may slip and hurt themselves, which is why some people opt for those store-bought wheels, because they do have those linings in the wheel, like the rodent wheel has a lining in it. Not that Latte needs it, but it is the perfect size for him. You should still have a wheel above 6 inches for your hamster. I even think 6 inches is a bit small, but that's the bare minimum. A Syrian hamster, however, I don't think there's a wheel restriction at all. The bigger the better, really. When it comes to size differences in enclosures, it's not so much the species but the gender of hamster that is the problem. So female hamsters tend to be more territorial, so they would probably be better suited in a larger enclosure. I'm not saying that male hamsters should have small enclosures. I'm saying that people believe that female hamsters do better in bigger enclosures because they are territorial, they don't really like being handled from my experience. Male hamsters do need the same size as enclosures, maybe even bigger than females. Gender equality, that's not what I'm saying. But there is some research out there. I'll leave the link to the article I was reading in the description. It basically explains everything about how the 2 different genders and their needs. I have made a video about female versus male hamsters, so if you're interested in looking more into their genders rather than the different species, then I will leave that video in the description as well as leave it in the iCard, whichever side it pops up on, I'm not too sure. But yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys found this video educational. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Bye! I just want to give you a quick story time because I found this quite funny. So this morning I was about to set up and film because I had a shower, I got changed, I was feeling really good. I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna get a lot done today. I go to find my ring light and I can't find it. Turns out it was thrown out because my dad thought it was broken, so he chucked it out. So let me just show you what I've been filming, how I've been filming, because it's quite funny, it's quite special. So this is basically where I was filming. I balanced my phone on this tissue box against my speaker. It's basically how I was doing things, but you know what, it works, and that's all that matters until I can get a new ring light. I am not the professional people think I am. It's a literal tissue box makeshift tripod, you know. Anyway, sorry, I just had to add that in. I thought it was really funny. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you next week. Peace.